What makes people afraid of a monster? Is it their design, actions, or the story behind them? Hello everyone, I'm Zimzilla, and here is my long overdue kaiju review of Tarus by the True Bioman. Let's start off with the appearance first. Very dinosaur, reptilian on first glance, head similar to that of a snake, bull-like horns, kind of large, bulky T-Rex-like claws. There's a lot of sharp blade-like objects protruding from the back of the legs as well as the back of the arms, sort of like a arm blade-like appearance, a spike on the tail, as well as spikes and little arm-like appendages running down the stomach. That is actually part of a mouth that runs along the stomach, similar to the design of that of the Gaping Dragon from the first Dark Souls game. Onto the basic stats of the character, he has a height of 356 feet, excluding the horns, and a length of 589 feet. Converting it to metric, it'd be 108.509 and 179.5272 meters, respectively. Why change the stats to metric, you may be asking? Well, because I like the metric system, okay? Plus, changing into metric system allows you, and probably I, to better visualize the heights compared to Godzilla or Ultra Kaiju, for instance, as well as his weight is 6,700 tons. To sum up its personality in a few words, it would probably be relentless, sadistic fearmonger. It is described as wanting humans to fear it as it takes pleasure in destruction, and in combat with other kaiju it's aggressive to a T, wanting only to attack and not letting up in its attacks. If this was translated into, say, a game structure, if you were trying to use it in, say, like online debate for submitting monsters, high aggression is good, of course. Wanting to destroy stuff is good if you're trying to make a good story about a monster destroying a city. And fear comes up a lot in the story, which we'll get into later. However, I'd say these kind of circles of character thoughts are important, and I'd say there's a good basis. Aggressive takes pleasure, so sadist, so aggressive, sadist, and relentless. Three good words to describe this character's personality and are solid to work with. For powers, he is flaming. As in, the top of his head is on fire, along with being able to shoot fire from his chest mouth. This attitude with flames translates into a heat resistance. He's also seeming to be able to move through buildings unfazed. Whether this is some kind of shifting or quantum tunneling is not explained. However, that is an interesting ability, along with also being able to move quite freely and more quickly through water, which was where the creature first appeared. And of course, you can't be a kaiju without some form of active regen. Other weaponry includes obviously the claws, teeth, the mouth running down the body, and the bladed tail that would make even a xenomorph blush. And feats, which I'll gloss over, he's been able to survive 3 nukes, can dig through the mantle and up to the surface of the earth in a couple of days, and has a hypersonic reaction speed. The one weakness he does appear to have is that his own attacks can damage him to some degree. However, this was also due in part to the military engaging in an attack on him. However, it does seem that only he is his own worst enemy in this case. On to origin. This creature appears in the year 2023 when there is almost total peace. Its reason is stated to be that of self-preservation, as is a creature of fear produced by the fear mortal creatures exhibit. This is indicated that it is sustained by fear, and here's where most likely the need to flex more of that lower world building skill is going to be needed, as although the origin is simple, we need more to understand why this creature was formed, since it is a creature of fear and not an animal or a mutation of any kind. We will need to understand how fear manifests in this way and how it produced this creature, or is this creature some kind of perpetual that is somehow the embodiment of fear, or where fear comes from in this world. That's always important because if there is legitimate reason why this creature exists, it makes more sense to the reader, as well as if it is something like a constant or perpetual within the universe, having it as a threat is always something that's gonna have the hearers wondering how they can beat it, questioning themselves, doubting. It plays a lot on the emotions of the characters that you might be using in your story, and that is why I believe that to improve on this part, definitely do a lot more world building and lore so we understand where this creature comes from. This is going to be the first time on my channel that I'm going to be doing this, and that is a kaiju redesign workshop. This is where I take the basic design of a character that someone sends me in, and I give my own little design for it and workshop my way through how I took the basic concepts of their original design and possibly give them some ideas to help them along the way with it. And since I don't have a social life, or a very, very weak one, I made two designs. Here is the redesign one. What I decided to do was take the head, give it a more snake-like appearance. The top fang is a lot longer than the bottom fang, as opposed to the original where the fangs were around the same size. The horns there is two horns, you can only see one here in this picture. However, I decided that the horns would not really be connected. They would be two horns and they wouldn't circle around and make the crown-esque appearance as in the original. Down the back we can see that there's some kind of osteoderms that I decided to give it. Along with the fire on the head. The fire on the head is a lot smaller, however now he has the fire running down all the way back towards the base of his tail. His tail keeps the scythe kind of blade edge. However, it also has a little bit extra armor that runs down it as well. He has a little bit of a spiky stubble there around his neck. The arms keep the similar shape. The arm blade stays on the arms but not the back of the legs. But the arm blade is also of a different shape, and the blade sharpened serrated edge piece now curls forwards, so it's easier to sort of elbow people with those blades. I still kept the two fingers. The chest mouth, the teeth or kind of like grippy pieces are no longer there. However, the row of teeth that now run down it are a little bit different in their size and their shape. As you can see, there's the large ones that protrude out, and they get progressively smaller the more you go up or down. The toes, they kind of kept the original shape. However, I decided to make the legs a little bit more bulkier, and they don't have the same kind of arch that the original toes do. So that was the first redesign, and now we'll go on to the second redesign. Here you can see the horns are a little bit smaller than on my first redesign. They actually do become the crown like the original. However, it is kind of, you can't really tell because of the fire. The fire just stays on the head on this redesign. However, it's a little bit bigger and has a little bit more shape to it instead of just kind of shooting up into the air. The back, no osteoderms. However, though, there is those 4 quills right there on the back. The scythe tail keeps its shape. The overall body is more of a traditional Charles R. Knight T-Rex-esque body. The arms and the legs are a lot thinner. The blades, their original shape on the back of the legs and the arms remains the same. The arms are a little different in their shape. As for the chest mouth, the grippy arms are turned, however they're a lot longer, as in his description, Tarus is said to be able to sort of grip people with those arms and attack with the mouth. So I decided to make them a little bigger, so if he's grappling with an opponent, those arms are a lot longer and able to grip a lot easier. The toes, I kept I'll just call them the Taurus toes. I kept the Taurus toes intact, kind of having them with that arch. And I like it. There's no scaly stubble around the top of the throat area. That kind of is a little bit more softer and fleshier in its appearance. And as you can see with both redesigns, like the original, Taurus has no eyes. However, around the head area, we can see, once again, a little bit more just traditional, outdated T-Rex. The teeth are a lot more conical and thicker. The bottom fang is a little bigger than the top fang. If the mouths were to close, the teeth would show through, so it'd be very jagged if he closed his mouth. And between the two, the tongue remained relatively the same. And now I'll explain why these two pictures were not in color and why the thumbnail picture was. Now, of course, the original Taurus picture is not colored, however, he is described as having dark red skin, as well as the spiky bits along his body, so his teeth, claws, horns, etc. are a gunmetal gray, with the fire on the top of his head being an orange. Now, orange fire, let's get with that first. Orange fire is not that hot compared to other kinds of fire. If you wanted to have like the hottest kind of fire, it'd be blue. However, bright blue with a dark red doesn't really mix well unless you're actually adding purple as well, so that's going to mess up the color palette. For a type of dark red, because we're thinking probably it's going to be like this, I imagined it as being a dark, like almost black, but it still has that red kind of like accenting to the color. I decided that the color I would use would be mahogany, actually. The color you see here is this mahogany red. I was first thinking a flat red would be good too, which it would work. However, I thought mahogany being a little bit of a darker red would work a little better. As for the color of the fire itself, here I went with this orange with a lighter orange. However, a red, orange, yellow works as well to show that the fire is kind of moving. It's alive, quote unquote. Like, it's not staying at this constant temperature. You can see it kind of flickering and describe it as flickering if you're writing about it, stuff like that. Gunmetal gray, a lot of people say they like something on gunmetal gray. However, the issue with having something as gunmetal gray is that gunmetal gray has the kind of grady metallic sheen to it, so it doesn't even really look, it has an unnatural look to it. And of course, Taurus isn't natural, being a creature of fear and all. However, just a flat gray like what I have here works out fine, because I would have to find some way to add the grit to make it gunmetal gray. And as for gunmetal gray itself, I think people sometimes mix up gunmetal gray with steel, because steel is also a color. So steel gray works fine, maybe even a light gray, or even bone, like a bone kind of pale white tannish color could work well for the spiky bits and the teeth. That actually, I've always kind of liked that, because you can really tell the distinction between like colors with that kind of tan color. So there's that. There isn't really much else I could say about the colors, because the colors, of course, will have to match and accent each other. And I think having a dark red like mahogany or a flat red's fine. Make sure the gray is something like steel or a light gray or just regular gray in general. Don't go with a gunmetal gray, because gunmetal gray makes it look metal, and Taurus isn't made of metal, so don't add that. For the teeth and spiky bits, if you don't want to do gray, a sandy tan works as well. So now I'm going to be doing a small little critique or addition to powers and origin. This is probably my small little critique about the character as a whole that I found kind of strange, was that he has no abilities that actually induce fear as a whole. Actually, that's interesting that isn't a part of the character. So when I was thinking about what else he could have as an ability, I thought maybe either his blood, if he has blood or whatever, like he quote unquote bleeds with, or a breath, something that excretes like a gas, a toxin, anything that could produce fear, kind of like Scarecrow. As well as I think that definitely when you're writing with a character, playing around with the concept of what is fear or what can cause fear, stuff like that, would really help flesh out this character. I was kind of thinking about what ideas this character could use to have his like existence of be like living off fear work, and I thought about anxiety. And you can think of anxiety of being worried about something and being deeply concerned about it as kind of a soft fear that Taurus could feed off of, being a creature of fear, and that certain kinds of fear produces a certain kind of sustenance for him. So say like anxiety produces little sustenance, while someone being extremely terrified, it produces a lot of it, and someone who has a phobia of something perpetually produces this fear that he can feed off of. As for the design, you can take the designs as you were that I had. I hope that you found them to your liking. Of course, the colored one is kind of my own style's rendition of the original. And as for the name, Taurus, I understand Taurus as a name makes sense, probably because of the horns, but I would recommend looking at a name that has something to do with fear, maybe a part of the brain, like mixing around the words, fear in another language, stuff like that. A good example of this is amygdala from Bloodborne. You actually saw it at the start of the video. And amygdala is part of the brain that produces fear, so amygdala makes sense right there. So I hope you enjoyed this kaiju character review. I haven't done one of these in a long time. Like, comment, subscribe, check out my Instagram, DeviantArt, all those nice things, and stay tuned because I'll have more of these along the way sometime soon. Later, guys.